I'm Donnegal, and I want to welcome you to my channel, where we are going to write that story you've always been dreaming about. Have you always wanted to write a book and you've never known where to start? Today, we're going to talk about the first steps of writing your novel, which might not be what you're imagining. It isn't just sitting down and writing, and it isn't even knowing what you're going to write. First, you need to decide that this is what you're going to do, because writing's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is difficult. You're going to get stuck. You're going to pull your hair out. You're going to yell at your characters. And you're going to do things you don't want them to do. And you're going to have to go ahead and fix all these plot holes. And it's just me going over the draft again and again and again. Writing takes determination, it takes passion, and it takes grit. Often, it takes sacrificing things. It's also great to make sure that you know why you're doing this. What is the message that you want to send to the world? Is there an aspect of human nature that you want to explore? Or a story that's been itching at your brain for years and you just have to get it out on that page? Once you've decided that you want to go on this adventure and write this book, your next step is setting aside the time. And it's easier for some and it's very difficult for others. We all have jobs, we all have lives, we all want social lives. Some people have kids, we all have to pay bills in one form or another. Some of us have chores, but if you're going to get this book written, you need to make time for it. Now, there are some people that can write while waiting in line or in between helping kids with homework if you're a parent. I have often found myself writing like outlines on the back of receipts at work. You're going to find all the time that you can and you're going to get it down on the page. Part of this step is also going to be knowing how much time you need to actually get something that you like on the page or that has potential. There are some people where you can sit down for 5 minutes and you can just bust out a few paragraphs or even like 500 words. There are some people that can do that. And then there are some people who they have to go ahead and take a little time. They have to do a little bit of warming up and then they get into the headspace. A great way to figure this out would be to try doing writing sprints. One day you set a timer for 5 minutes and you write, and then the next day you'll look at what you wrote and you'll think about the caliber of what it is, and then you'll set a longer timer. You just go and write for that amount of time and you see which one you like better. But I noticed like differences between when you started and when you ended writing. Search for any gaps. It's your first step. Maybe you have a half an hour or 15 minutes before you get ready for work. Or maybe you wake up a half hour earlier. For example, if I work later in the day, like at about 9 or 10, instead of taking that time to sleep in, I will wake up a few hours early so that I can get in some writing. Or you can stay up a little later in the evening. If you spend a lot of time on your phone, cut the time that you spend on your phone in half and work on your manuscript. Instead of watching television every night, you set aside a couple of nights where instead of watching your favorite show, you work on your manuscript. That brings us to the next step. Make writing a habit. I can't count the number of projects I've started and then I've taken a break from, and by the time I come back to it, it's just fizzled out because I stepped away from it for too long. And that came from being so irregular with my writing. I would spend a week or so writing and then 2 weeks doing some other hobby instead of having writing be a habit instead of a hobby. If you write every single day, whether you're inspired or not, write even when you're uninspired, not only will that make you produce more writing, but eventually it will help produce more future ideas for your writing. Ways to make writing a habit. Set aside a half an hour a day or even every other day. If time limits don't work for you, you can even make a number of words per day goal. Every day, you're gonna write 100 words. And then after a few weeks of doing that, it becomes every day you're gonna write 200 words. Try to write at about the same time every day so that it becomes a routine. Sort of like brushing your teeth before bed every night. If I have no idea what I wanna write, I know what project I'm working on, or maybe I have like an idea for a scene, but I really don't know where to start it, I'll do what's called a writing sprint. You set that timer, you do 5 minutes, you do 10 minutes, you do 15 minutes, just write as many words as you possibly can in that amount of time. You don't edit yourself, you don't be super perfectionist about it, just get the words on the page. A lot of the times, it's not going to be your best writing, but you will have put some words on the page, you will have practiced this art, and a lot of the times there are little nuggets of inspiration that you can find later when you go back over what you've written. It'll give you an idea of what you want to write. It's also important to note the power of a deadline, which I do recommend that you give yourself. You can make a writing plan for yourself. It's going to give you a clear idea of what you need to accomplish every day to complete this project. Another thing is crossing items off a list every day is going to help you feel that you're making progress on your manuscript. The longer it takes for you to see progress, the more likely you're going to get discouraged and the more likely you're going to give up on finishing that book. Here are some ways that will help you set this up. First, you need to set reasonable and measurable goals. The next thing you can do to help you with this is to divide and conquer your manuscript. You're basically cutting it into chunks so that you can look at one chunk per day rather than looking at the whole thing, which is overwhelming. And then write down your plan and order your list of tasks. It's great to have that plan up in your head, but there's just something about writing it down on paper and looking at it every single day and checking that off or crossing it off, putting a line through it, whatever you prefer. It'll help you remember everything and it'll help you get done. Make sure you're setting deadlines, not only because that'll give you the motivation to get the task done if you have daily deadlines, but it can give you an idea of how many tasks you need to get done in what amount of time, so you can kind of work backwards and schedule those tasks. But it's also going to give you practice if you ever want to work with a publishing company, because they will give you a deadline and they will expect you to deliver by that deadline, or else they're not going to want to work with you then. And that's it for today. Comment below if you found this helpful, hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe because next week we are going to be talking about generating story ideas and testing their strength. Hope to see you there. Until next time.